Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC defender, Dion Bailey. Dion, it is so wonderful to see your face again. It's been such a long time. I just want to apologize to everyone. I know we promised this episode last week, but if Dion and I never record, usually you can count on one or two things. Either Daddy Duty took over or I got sick. And we had the combination of both the last week. So, Dion, it was a challenge to get us both here, but we're here, and I'm so happy to be recording with you. How are you doing?
Definitely was a challenge to get this last one up and rolling, but glad we was able to finally catch up with each other. You getting your health back in order, and me getting a little time away from the kiddos that is a full-time job that I'm on right now. So I'm excited to finish up the season with this last episode, and happy that we're able to finish it with a final victory recap.
I know. I was about to say Victory Monday. I was like, what day is it? We're recording on a Saturday.
I was about to say that too. But.
It's a Victory Saturday. I'm very excited to wrap this one up. I'm excited to get your thoughts, Dion. Not only do we need to talk about the Holiday Bowl victory for USC, but I also want to pick your brain about USC's new hire for its defensive coordinator. So we'll get into that in this episode. And again, thanks for everyone's patience on us getting this out. We hope you had a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. Before we jump into it, just want to give a thanks to Audi. Performance is more exhilarating on a real road. Introducing the Audi Q5. Visit your SoCal Audi dealers, proud sponsors of the USC Trojans. And at Ralph's, everyone wins when it comes to saving big, because when you order online through the Ralph's app, you get the same great prices, deals, and rewards on pickup or delivery that you do in store. So no matter where you shop, you always save big at Ralph's. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Fight on. Whenever I get close to doing a 2-for-2 ad read, Dion, I always am like, I'm close. And then, I almost mess up a word, but we got it. You
got through.
Excited to talk about this game with you, the Holiday Bowl victory. USC defeats number 15 Louisville 42-28. My first question for you, Dion, you're the East Coast representative of this podcast. How do you say Louisville? Louisville, sometimes people mumble it a little bit.
I'm almost certain it's probably Louisville. Okay. I'm not really sure, honestly, because I can't get my California accent taken out. But
I'm glad it's still holding strong.
Emphasize on the ooey. Yeah. More so than we do.
Yeah, for sure. Cody and I couldn't figure out, so I didn't know if you being on the East Coast, you had any intel there, but you're still a California kid.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a lot of California folks out this way as well. A lot of people, it's like a little melting pot out here right now.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
Out to the Nashville area. So it's a lot harder to come across like someone with a true Southern accent now than probably 10 years in Nashville. So really I gotta, search it out there to find somebody that can give me the true Southern pronunciation of how they say Louisville.
Interesting. I would have known that. Who knows? I didn't know it was a melting pot these days. So the more you know.
Yeah. It's a huge retirement location. So a lot of people moving here to retire specifically from California because they pricing everybody out of there. So everybody coming this way.
Understandable, for sure. Well, back to the Holiday Bowl. I thought this was going to be a very interesting game. Honestly, I did not know what to expect from this team. And I feel like, the only thing we had to compare it to was USC had like a month off prior to the Cotton Bowl, and they just came out pretty flat in that game, if we're being honest. And so they had 6 weeks off. It was such a long break after 9 weeks of straight game weeks. You have your defensive coordinator let go, and then you have a new hire. You have guys that enter the transfer portal. We learned from head coach Lincoln Riley that they had more than 22 players not available, scholarship players for the game. So when it came to the Holiday Bowl and it came time to play, I was very curious what we were going to see. But I was very impressed by the energy and the focus that the team had, because basically they had everything working against them. So I was just curious, Dion, your overall thoughts and your impressions of how you saw the team come out first, maybe in just like the first half of the game.
Yeah, heading into the game, I really didn't know what to expect either. It was a lot of moving pieces, guys sitting out, coaches, a lot of uncertainty with the coaching staff, guys, even the ones that were sticking around, they didn't know if they would be there past the bowl game. And so you just never know how a situation really where there's a lot of transition. You never know how the guys are going to respond. But the few weeks off, it did them some good. It appeared they came out refreshed, energized. It looked like they took every opportunity that they had in the bowl season prep to get better, and they look like they got better in a lot of areas that they seem to have been struggling throughout the year, especially on the defensive end. So it was definitely, from what my expectation level was set at, they definitely like surpassed it by a long shot. But the performance that they put out in the Holiday Bowl, is reassuring, really,
honestly,
of of the direction Coach Riley is trying to go, and the buy-in that he's getting from guys that want to be part of the program and follow his direction. So it was a good, really good as a Trojan fan and alumni to see how they responded with the opportunity and the adversity that they were facing.
100%. And you nailed it on the head at the end of what you just said, the buy-in. And I felt like, talking to players after the game, doing some interviews, the word that or phrase that kept coming up was, well, the ones who played, we wanted to be here. We wanted to put on a performance. And I thought that was really interesting. You talk about the portal exodus, but those who were there, you could tell that they wanted to get this win and they were very much in the moment. And I think Coach Riley talked about that as well in his post-game press conference. So I just thought it was interesting, the buy-in that they had, like you mentioned. I didn't mention this at the top, but we actually got a lot of questions. So I'm going to sprinkle them in as we're talking about this, because I'm sure there's going to be overlap. And one of them is from Terry. Terry, good to see you asking questions once again. He said, to what do you attribute the excellent team-first attitude from these players? Could it be that with opt-outs and those leaving via the portal, we have weeded out those who are quote-unquote me-first players? And I'm curious about this, Dion, because we had questions about this season and kind of what maybe didn't go right, but it felt like I mentioned in what we heard, those who were playing were really invested in the game and wanting to be there. So I was just curious your thoughts on that, and Terry's question as well.
I would say I don't know if you got rid of the me first guys, but it seemed like there was a little disconnect potentially in the locker room between some guys and what direction that they were trying to go in as a team, as a unit. So it definitely seemed like they were more together, like on following the same plan, like believing in their teammate, their brother, to do what they're supposed to do. You didn't see a lot of guys trying to play what we would call hero ball, like trying to do their job and somebody else's job as well. So I think it was just a gelling thing. Maybe the guys, a lot of guys, it was a lot of backups that got opportunities. So, when you're a backup going through the season, you guys are spending a lot of time, talking about what you would do when you would get out there. And I feel like they had a lot of guys that did a lot of talking behind the scenes. And when they got their opportunity, they seized it. And I mean, that's the type of guys that, the SC program is built on, guys. We got ready-made guys. It should be like a factory. Once one guy goes down, the next guy steps up, and it should be no drop-off. And it seemed like this wave, because it was a young group out there that really took hold of the team in the Holiday Bowl, and it looked like they have a good camaraderie between them and a good mindset and cohesiveness that they could play together and believe in one another to get the job done. So I think that's what you really saw.
100%. That's such a good summary there. And there's no bigger backup on the night than quarterback Miller Moss. It was really fun leading up to the game to see how many people were just rooting for him, especially given how he kind of represents the quote unquote old school model of college football now, where, he could have probably hit the portal earlier in the season or last season. I mean, he knew that Caleb Williams obviously won the Heisman. He was going to be a backup heading into the season, but he waited his turn. So I think it was interesting that, not only was everyone rooting for him coming into this game, but how was he going to react to that? He knew that he had 6 weeks to prepare. All eyes were going to be on him. Like sometimes when that pressure's on guys, you don't know how they're going to react. And boy, did Miller Moss react. He went 23 of 33 for 372 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And then just a couple of notes here. He became the first USC quarterback in USC history with 6 touchdown passes versus a ranked opponent. and his 371 passing yards were the most from a USC quarterback versus a top 15 team since Sam Darnold 7 years ago. I believe he also threw the most touchdowns for a quarterback in their starting debut in USC history. And he became very close to breaking or tying, I should say, Cody Kessler's single game touchdown record in his first start. So just a wild performance from Miller Moss. So I was just curious, Dion, your thoughts on what we saw from Miller Moss.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that everybody was rooting for him in today's age of everybody, you know, whether it's adversity or they're just looking for more. A lot of people bouncing around, spending 1 year at one school and at another school the next, and then maybe another school after that. So for him to be, you know, kind of that throwback breed of, you know, sticking it out, believing in oneself and just waiting on that opportunity. And he seized it. I mean, what you saw, I feel like you just saw a lot of Trojans take the field, because that's truly all the great Trojans you think of. All their stories are like a Miller Moss, like Matt Liner, who'd he wait behind? Carson Palmer, you know, like nobody besides Matt Barkley, and he didn't even accomplish nearly as much as all these other quarterbacks that had to wait their turn. Yeah. That's generally, you know, the way it is at SC. It's a QB factory, and guys wait their turn. It only takes 1 year, like a Mark Sanchez, 1.5 years, and you can be, you know, number 5th pick overall. So like, that's just the way it is. And I was excited to see how he seized the opportunity and maximized it. And it's just kudos to him. He wasn't just sitting back, you know, really just waiting his turn. He was sitting back trying to learn, really picking apart what he could from Caleb's game. When you have the opportunity to sit behind somebody of Caleb's stature, who's truly, you know, in a lot of regards, like a generational talent, you don't see a lot of Caleb Williams come through the college ranks or pro ranks. So it was exciting to see, I'm sure, a lot of his teammates, the progression he's made from the 2 years he sat behind Caleb, and they seen it in practice. I'm sure that he could be ready. And then once he was given that opportunity, he proved that, you know, given the opportunity, he could be successful and he could lead the team. So that was really, I mean, motivating for a lot of young kids out there, and just a great example to see, not really set, but just a great an example of someone just not overcoming a lot of adversity, but really just sticking it out, believing in himself, and it working out in their favor. So it was good to see how his performance was in Holiday Bowl, given all the background to his story.
And sticking true to himself too, you know, he kind of bet on himself in that sense as well.
He definitely did, because we brought in Makai, and he didn't leave, and Makai was, you know, top whatever recruit. You know, some people say he's number one recruit some days, some days he's not the number one. Yeah, so Malachi. Yeah, so we it was for him to stick it out after that, especially in today's age. I'm sure everyone and their mom was telling him to leave, and he stuck it out, and now look at the position he's in. So I mean, he's gonna be a guy who's definitely gonna be like a fan favorite heading in, and if he's given the opportunity to lead, I'm sure he'll do exactly what we saw him do in the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, and I know this is now we're a week removed, so I'm not sure how much you remember, but what did you think of his pocket movement? And he had some wheels at certain points in the game. I thought it was pretty impressive. Like, I believe it was his first touchdown to Jacoby Lane. He was he was moving all around, making sure he was missing defenders. I was pretty impressed because his pocket awareness seemed more progressed than someone who's having their first start.
Yeah, and I would attribute that to backups having their first starts along with him. So guys he's been getting reps with took the field with him. So he didn't take reps with guys. He didn't take the field with guys he's not used to throwing to. Like, he hasn't had those side conversations. Oh, you know, if we get this look, we gonna do that. Because, you know, Caleb was having those conversations with like a Mario Williams,
Brendan Rice,
so forth. You know, Brendan Rice, the guys that he was taking the field with. So when Miller Moss was able to take the field, for him to be able to take the field with guys he was going through the trenches with in practice through camp and all that, it was a great familiarity for just all of them. That whole unit that was out there, they all, you know, kind of been in the trenches together, so to speak, in practice together. So I really believe that played a huge part in his just confidence and comfort level he showed when he was in the pocket. And because he looked like he it didn't look like it was his first start. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw a lot of QBs through this bowl season make, whether their first start or, they haven't played many snaps. They maybe started or played in the emergency, whatnot, but not many look like Miller Moss. So it was just like, just everything fell into play, and it was like kind of like the perfect storm for him. And like I said, he took advantage of that opportunity and he ran with it.
Well, the crazy part too is he was also a COVID senior. So his last start came in
Yeah,
2019.
Yeah,
His
as a junior in high
season.
school, I read that.
So
So I mean, a long time coming for him. I'm sure he was chopping at the bit to get back out there and make some plays in between the white lines. So man, I never really rooted for someone like I was rooting for Miller Moss, knowing his story and the perseverance he showed to really stick it out. And I mean, his dream was to play for USC, and for him to be able to live, even if it was just that moment, like that's just such a great moment for a guy with his story and all that he's done. So I'm glad he was able to kind of propel the program, not get us back on track, but just get us going in the right trajectory we want to enter in a new conference and a lot of change and all that. So settled a lot of fans down with his performance, and he did a ton for the program. I don't know if people realize, but he really, I mean, SC fans, they back feeling good about the program, talking stuff, they excited for going into the Big Ten, which that truly wasn't the case before the Holiday Bowl, because we ain't know 100%. What it was going to look like without Caleb Williams. So he really showed us it's light at the end of the tunnel.
100%. And I talked to him after the game about that. I was like, it seems like last year the team was very cognizant about what the Cotton Bowl did for the offseason. It really left a bad taste in not only players and staffs, personnel, their mouths, but also fans as well, and you're coming off of a Heisman winning season, but it just did not sit well, and rightfully so. But then I was talking to Miller Moss, and he was like, we were very cognizant of that, and we wanted to, it kind of was played into we're here because we want to be here. Not only do we want to be here, but we want to propel us into the future, what the next era, quote unquote, of USC football looks like. Because I was talking to Lincoln Riley, we do a pregame interview, and I said, this game is kind of 1 foot in 2023 and 1 foot in 2024. How do you prepare for it? And in that sense, to your point, it propelled, a better feeling about this program heading into 2024.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I feel like it was a unique opportunity for Coach Riley and just the program and as a whole, because normally bowl season is really just how you just, putting a cap on that season, and really it doesn't truly have any effect or rollover to the following season. But that wasn't the case, because all the guys that were taking the field for the Holiday Bowl, because of all the opt-outs and all the movement having to be made prior to the Holiday Bowl taking place, we saw what we're going to see next year. So it was kind of like a snapshot into the 2024 team. The guys that were out there that were making plays in the Holiday Bowl, only Taj isn't going to be out there next year. It was a truly a good inside snapshot of what we're going to be treated to for the 2024 offense, so to speak. I'm not really sure about how the defense is going to play out. It's been a lot more movement on that side of the ball leading into the next year. But with a Lincoln Riley head team, everybody is, how's the offense going to look? Because he's been fortunate to have quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, elite level, unique guys. So to see, we don't know what Miller Moss could potentially be, but just to see it be with a guy that's not, thought of as, the next Michael Jordan type deal. And, maybe people see Miller as a normal guy, and he went out there and had, like a Michael Jordan performance. So it's, Coach Riley truly may be the QB whisperer, or Miller Moss just has been, a true assassin waiting in the wings, and now it's his time to strike. So, it's a lot to be excited for, a lot of anticipation, much more than I thought we were going to be left with after how the 23 season played out. But, that Holiday Bowl, I feel like it really put the program back in a good position, a positive direction. You really don't really think too much about how the 23 season played out as a whole. It is what it is. We had Caleb's run, but hey, like I tweeted like, hey, we're down now, but we're not out. And it looks like, potentially it could be an exciting year next year, especially how our schedule lines up, So it was an exciting experience watching the Holiday Bowl and how it finished and how all the young guys performed.
100%. You mentioned earlier how Miller's night was fueled by the backups that he normally practices with. And it was definitely a symbiotic relationship. He was fueling their success and they were fueling his. So much so it was a career night for some of the receivers as well. Congrats to Jacoby Lane, who had his first collegiate touchdown. He ended up with 2 on the night. Mekhi Lemon had a career high in receiving yards in the game. And then not a young guy, but just want to give him his praise. Taj Washington eclipsed the 1,000-yard receiving mark on the season. First time he's ever done that in his career. He was kind of just speechless when I talked to him after the game about it. That was a big goal of his that he had. And Riley was sure to give him his praise in the post-game press conference. He was like, Taj's character, it says everything about him that we had no doubt that he was going to play in this game. He was like, he could have sat out, he could have done whatever, but he was right there in the trenches with everyone preparing for this game like he still had years of eligibility left. So just congrats to Taj Washington, old reliable, if you will, so under the radar, definitely. But so clutch for USC. But I was really excited about the flashes we saw from the young guys. In particular, Jacoby Lane. I felt like a little bit I got justice. And I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast, but in fall camp, Jacoby Lane was going off. So much so that I was...
Really?
Yes, I was surprised that he didn't get as much playing time as he did because he just had a great camp. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I know. And maybe it was because, the matchups or they're trying something new in certain practices and he's just dominating guys. But he was a guy that I've had my eye on since fall camp. And so the Holiday Bowl to me felt like redemption a little bit. Like that's the Jacoby we saw in fall camp. So I'm really excited just for the future of USC's wide receiver room, but curious what you saw from that perspective, just USC's, the new faces in the receiver room.
Oh man, it was great to see. I know Mekhi, I watched him a lot when he was even in high school at Los Al. So
yeah,
I knew he was a competitive, fiery guy. He played both ways in high school. He's a 50-50 ball guy. He'll go up and compete for it. He's an athlete. He run after catch type guy. So I was excited to see him get loose a little bit. And with Jacoby, he's a big body guy. So I was excited the way that he was being used. I feel like we were asking the young guys to do what they do well, and and really feed them on that. We weren't asking guys to do things that either we know they can't do or they don't believe that they can do it well. Some coaches just, they have a scheme and they just try to plug guys into a scheme rather than scheming for specific guys, like their specific strengths compared to their weaknesses. Whether, Jacoby's a jump bar guy, so we're not out there asking him to run quick slants, quick outs, giving them opportunity to make plays with the ball up high so he can use his big frame. So it was exciting to see all the young guys be given an opportunity and take advantage of it, and they were all, a lot of, in that specific room, those guys were, more high caliber type guys from the most recent recruiting class. So, Mekhi, he may have been a 5-star on some sites.
I believe, yes.
Yeah. So I know Jacoby was a 4-star. So I know they were really chopping at the bit, waiting for that opportunity to show what they can do. And they showed, we still wide receiver U, and we got a good unit coming back next year. And they're definitely going to take advantage of the opportunities that they'll be given next year. So that was exciting to see. And in regards to Taj is all reliable. Ever since he threw on the Cardinal and gold, man, he's really just worn it and played with Trojan passion and the honor that you would hope to see, a Trojan represent the university. And every Saturday he's taking the field, man. He's just giving a great effort, always put his best foot forward. So it's exciting to see him put a cap on his career and being able to cross that 1,000-yard mark and check that off the list for, I'm sure, of his list of accomplishments he wished to achieve in his collegiate career. So I know he'll be a Sunday guy, so I'm excited to see to watch Taj's journey progress.
Me too. And Rob actually had a question, and it's a good thing he did because he mentioned a name that I forgot to mention, Deuce Robinson. He said, as a DB, how scary is it to face tall receivers like Deuce Robinson and Jacoby Lane? I don't know if you would say scary, Dion, because I feel like you're brave that.
I wouldn't say scary. It's definitely like a concern, or like you got to come with a game plan, because I mean you're not facing many 6'6" guys, so the repetition on how to compete with that frame, you don't really have that. So you really studying film, just trying to, okay, well, if the ball's placed here, I'll try to play it a certain way, or how you don't want to let him position himself, because he could just box you out, kind of like a tight end, even though he's in like a more of a receiver type frame. So I would compare it to like playing like a big tight end in the NFL, like a Gronk or a Kelsey, but they're just a much slimmer frame. So it's a lot of body positioning, game planning you got to do. It's a lot more to plan for than just covering somebody, because it's not just if I'm there, I'm gonna get the ball down, knock the ball down, or stop him from catching the ball. Because if I'm right there, but they throw it up to 6'9", and I'm a 6 foot guy, like what can I do? There's nothing I can do. So you got to have some type of plan to not put yourself in a position where they could use Deuce's size against you. But having somebody with that unique frame and ability to match the frame is definitely a competitive advantage, and I'm excited. We didn't mention Deuce, but he got loose a little bit. He showed his ability, and showed that his confidence it took a leap in that 6-week window of preparation. He definitely was much more confident when the ball came his way, and even when he dropped the ball early, he got in there, blocked the punt, then he was able to mix it up some more. So it was exciting to see him, really, because he was one of the younger guys that was given some opportunity earlier in the year. So it was exciting to see him put his best foot forward, given like a bigger role.
Yeah,
as well.
100%. And I mean, to keep his head in the game, because I believe that block punt came right after he had dropped. Well, would have been
literally came. It was the series right after he dropped it. We punted it. He blocked the punt on that for the defensive series following it. So that's a great train of events for someone young, because it's such a mental battle when you're young. You're battling against yourself more so than the opponent, because guys that come in so highly rated, they have such high expectation, so when we're in such an instant gratification generation with these guys, especially them coming up to high school, they probably played against a lot of kids that shouldn't have been on the field with them, so the gratification was instant. They instantly was able to prove that they were on a different level. So for him his opportunities to come so sparingly, you emphasize on it a lot more, that, man, I got to take advantage when it comes, because I know I'm only gonna get one so far and few between. So it was good to see him not hold on to that opportunity, to understand like he's gonna get more. And it was more of just a team atmosphere. You could definitely see, like, especially from that training events, like he dropping the ball, not thinking about himself, getting out there, blocking the punt the next series. Like it was just a great environment from all the guys all together. But that was really exciting for that to happen to him after the season transpired the way it did for him. So I'm excited for his 2024 year.
Me too, for sure. This is a random technical question, but if you're facing a taller wide receiver, are you more susceptible to being called for a PI just because like the proportion is different? Does that make sense? Like, I mean, your hands might be more seen, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like it's just more body to grab on, so to speak, and more reaching and grabbing you're going to be doing then so if you're playing someone more of your size, you really are going to be trying to play the ball more, not so much the man. But when you're playing somebody that's significantly taller than you, you're never really playing the ball, you're always playing the man. So it's going to be a lot more hand fighting, a lot more you trying to disrupt the receiver physically when the ball gets there, relative to someone that's at your eye level. You're playing the ball a lot more. So I feel like the chance of you at risk to get a pass interference definitely goes up 10 times when you're playing somebody significantly taller than you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One last thing for me when it comes to the offensive performance, we saw a shakeup for USC's offensive line. Elijah Page, the true freshman, got his first start at left tackle. Ron said, "Where's Elijah Page been all season? The freshman played left tackle like a pro, a good sign for next season among many others." And it was interesting because we had like a check-in press conference with head coach Lincoln Riley, I believe right after new DC D'Anton Lynn got hired. And one of the things that stood out to me that Riley was talking about, he said this new class of freshman offensive linemen that we brought in this season has taken a huge leap from the start of the season to the end of the season. And he was like, that didn't necessarily have to happen considering that they weren't getting any playing time, but they really took practice seriously. And he highlighted Alani Noah and Elijah Page for how much they've grown over the season. So it was interesting. We kind of got a preview of that and we saw it in the Holiday Bowl. And so I was curious if that move was basically to put tape of Elijah Page on previewing what 2024 could be for USC's offensive line. But did you make any notes or any thoughts, Dion, from USC's kind of shakeup at offensive line?
It was interesting to see the time that Miller had. Like it looked like that unit had been playing together all year. So it was exciting to see, especially a young guy that bookend tackle position, be able to anchor down and put that type of performance up against a D line that produced a lot of pressure, a lot of sacks throughout the year. Like Louisville's defensive line was no slouch. So it was exciting and very encouraging to see the type of performance he put out, given his first opportunity to get that starting opportunity and play a significant number of snaps. So it's definitely encouraging heading into the new year. And I know they're going to bring some more guys in. So I'm encouraged that we can get a replication of that 2022 offensive line performance. And, the offense may, get back on that. Well, I want to say that because last year the offense was electric. So let's not say that, but more of a timing type thing where we don't have the Caleb running around and all that type of stuff. So it's encouraging to see that they're on the right trajectory and they look good. Yeah,
another peek into the future was Jonah Monheim at right guard. Seems like for his NFL future he projects as a guard. So it seems like next season we'll see him at guard as well. So something to watch for as well. Mm-hmm. Now I want to switch over to the defense, Dion. It was interesting. We got more insight from Coach Riley after the game. He said in his presser that they actually had to change the entire game plan 1 week before the game based on, I believe it sounded like portal entrance. So it seemed like they needed to make more switches as far as personnel they were expecting. But again, if there was any group that I was kind of had quote unquote low expectations for, if you will, it was this defensive group because one, there were so many new faces starting, but also there was so much limbo and they didn't have a in place DC. We mentioned before that D'Anton Lynn obviously was not coaching in the Holiday Bowl. So again, I thought that, the expectations were low heading into the game, but I was really impressed with the likes of Prophet Brown. I thought he was tackling really well. Overall though, Dion, I know you're the defensive guy, the defensive expert of the pod. I was curious your thoughts on just overall the defensive effort we saw.
It was super encouraging to see. I don't know what was said or what changed in that 6 week, but the effort and attention to detail, it looked drastically different for that unit that took the field in the Holiday Bowl than the defensive unit we had throughout the entire season. I mean, the biggest difference from the performance from the Holiday Bowl to the regular season was the lack of explosive plays, and the reason for that being was the tackling from the secondary. Like, though the running back may bust through the first two levels, that we were getting them down in the back end. So, what would be, an 8 to 10 or 15-yard run stays that, and it doesn't turn into a 40, 50-yard gain, just a backbreaker type explosive play was so unnecessary. So it was just encouraging to see the tackling display. The moving on to the next play, you never really saw that domino effect of one bad play just trickling to leading to another bad play, and them never really able to catch their footing. So and they made Louisville earn everything. Like even the few explosive plays they did, I mean, they almost had a goal line stand on one of them. It wasn't for a terrible penalty that was called on Prophet.
Yeah.
Like terrible, like terrible call, but the effort and the the physicalness of the defense. It just seemed dramatically different. I don't know if Coach Lynn was out there, if the new defensive coaches had some type of hand in on the preparation or what, but it looked like a completely different unit out there. Everybody was just much more tentative. Looked like they were just playing so much more comfortable, like so much more sure of themselves. Like you didn't see any mental lapse, any mental bust. Like it was really what we were looking for all year. Like we could have got that performance consistently. You know, we're 11, 12 win team because we had Caleb and, you know, Coach Riley's scheme and everything to back that up. And that was really just what was holding us back or like limiting us from truly reaching the potential that the team could have reached. So, I mean, it was kind of like, you know,
was it bittersweet?
A bittersweet type performance, because it was just like, dang, like if you could have just gave something like this every week, like you guys are in the college football playoff, like that's how good the offense was, you know. Like we had the same situation. Washington, we could have been Washington. Like
I was curious, I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
We could be this year and last year, we could have been Washington. Like our offense was good enough to win every single game that we have played since Caleb's been here. Like literally, besides that one Oregon State game, our offense has been lights out week in and week out, giving us the great opportunity to win every single game. And you know, like a Washington defense, they're not great by any measuring metric you want to use, but they're a timely defense, and they come through in those pressure moments. They come through, and that's all. That's all we're asking the defense to do to complement a Lincoln Riley offense. And what we saw in the Holiday Bowl, if we're able to roll that over in 2024, that type of performance, like we're going to be a dangerous team, because that's literally the only thing that's like, you know, keeping us on everybody else's level, because we just haven't really got the defensive side figured out. But it looked like they trended in the right direction from that holiday performance. So with all the new coaching hires and all of their backgrounds and everything, all the winning, the tendencies they're going to bring, I'm sure we should take some sort of leap. I don't know how big of a leap, but hey, anything is better than especially than what we saw this year. So it's encouraging.
I don't know how much this actually like impacts things, but I was wondering if you know that your new DC is going to watch this tape and is probably watching in person. How much does that impact your performance? And, you know, you got to be on your P's and Q's playing. And and I would hate to say that impacts things, but I'm sure it does, right?
It definitely does. Definitely, you know, the eye in the sky don't lie. You know, it's a new eye watching that in the sky. So it's like everything that they're doing from that point he was hired on, they're looking at, you know, an investment they're making into their stock for 2024 with the new DC. So you saw a lot of guys probably be a lot more tentative to detail and to the game plan. They don't want to make mental, you know, errors because they don't have that connection with the next staff. So they want to put their best foot forward. And maybe that's what you saw, because you saw a guy like Jalen Smith, who played a lot throughout the year, but he came out and he was like playing on another level. I don't know if he missed a tackle, and he had plenty of opportunity to do so in that game. And so it was just, you just saw guys like that. They look like they just elevated their level of play for whatever reason. But I definitely think that could be one of the reasons we saw a lot of guys like a Jalen Smith elevate their play from being under the previous staff to now being evaluated by a whole new staff, and them like being on the outside looking in. So like I definitely think it played a part in a good way for us. So hopefully they can you know, keep them on their toes like that all 2024, and it'll work out well for everybody involved.
As you mentioned, Jalen Smith, he won the defensive MVP for the Holiday Bowl. Riley said he was playing out of position. I thought over the course of the year, though, we've seen Jalen Smith step up each game. I was curious if you saw anything different in his performance in the Holiday Bowl, or if that was just him playing lights out, particularly for that game.
I'm surprised he said he was playing out of position, because I don't think safety's out of position for Jalen Smith. He looks very comfortable in that position.
I mean, I think he just meant in the sense that like he played nickel all season long, and then he was playing.
Yeah. I guess especially specifically from personal experience, 'cause I played linebacker at SC and then I bumped out a nickel, so we didn't have to switch nickel. But then once you go from nickel to dropping back at safety, the view is a lot different. Like you're seeing a lot more, so it could, mess with how you're reacting and just how you're processing all that information from a different viewpoint. So I can see that how he's saying he's out of position in that perspective. But yeah, he was a guy that maybe wants to play safety and be able to roll down the nickel as well. That's how he played. He was playing like safety is a natural position, like he was in a natural, like he had been playing that position all year. So I'm not really sure what gave him that ability to perform at that level at a position that he wasn't playing the whole year. But I think he, for whatever reason, was able to really just elevate his tackling game. Like I feel like he played good all year long. He was one of the more dependable guys on the defensive end for sure. But it seemed like he just took it up another level. Like when he was putting his pads on guys, they were going down, and guys were getting lined up. I'm not sure how the communication was working on the back end, but it just looked like such a more cohesive unit. Like they just looked like they was just all tied on a string more times than not than what we've seen all year. It just didn't seem like it was guys out there that didn't know what they were supposed to do. So there's a lot of hands in it in their performance, from my opinion, with the DC leaving. So everything was simplified greatly, I'm sure. Yeah. So you didn't have guys thinking as much. You ain't had them trying to get too creative. You was just letting the guys play ball. And that really, sometimes, simplified defense is the best defense. Because like what I learned when I was in Seattle, like we really ran like 2 or 3 coverages, ran them a lot of different ways, so to speak. But it's not about having a lot of different things that you can do that you just do okay. You rather have a few things that you do really well. You just focus on those, and you just understand how to adjust to any, formation or offensive attack you could face out of those plays. And you can really play like a cover 3 against any look. It's a form of cover 3 that works versus any offensive formation or any offensive play. So when you really hunker down on the fundamentals and the foundation of a specific defense and perfect it, I feel like the simpler the plan, the better, and guys could really play. They're not thinking, they're just reacting, and I think that's what you saw. Guys really just being able to play, not thinking as much. You don't see a lot of movement out there. It just seemed guys seemed a lot more confident and comfortable.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of questions specifically asking that. SoCal Manny, Rama, Jorge, they all wanted to know what was the difference. Like, could you pinpoint why we saw such a different output from the defense? Would you just say it maybe because it was simplified and guys knew what they were doing?
I think it was because it was simplified. Guys knew what they were doing, and it was a lot of guys who, especially in the back end, excluding Jalen, that didn't get that many opportunities throughout the year, and really took advantage of the opportunities when they were given. So we struggled a lot on tackling. I'm not sure if we tackled a lot throughout that 6 weeks preparation, but for some reason, guys were getting guys down. To me, that was the biggest difference. Like the tackling. Like the tackling was at a premium in the Holiday Bowl, and I've never seen it like that since Coach Riley's been at SC. Tackling is something we've struggled at over the past 2 years, but we looked like a good tackling team in the Holiday Bowl, So it was I think that was the biggest difference, and it was exciting to see because it's a fundamental thing, and it seemed like we finally got a grasp on it. So like, if we was able to put it on tape in the Holiday Bowl, like I'm confident, like we will see better tackling going into 2024 because they're capable of doing it.
Something that I'm wondering again how much of an impact it made, but Taylor Mays, since Alex Grinch was let go, he was elevated to I believe he was like the safeties coach, and then once Dante Williams left for Georgia, he was just the secondary coach. He was on the field. I could see him, really into it as Coach Mays, and he is a stickler for tackling as well. And now that he was elevated to that position where he could actually coach on the field, I'm curious how much that actually played into it. And we got a question from Lewis, who said, how important is it to make Taylor Mays a full-time coach for player development and for him to help with recruiting? And I can speak to this a little bit because I know that he does play a role in recruiting already. That's not really necessary for him to be a full-time coach. But with Coach Belk coming in as the secondaries coach, I don't believe he will be promoted to a full-time coach, but I definitely think that coaching is in his future, and it was good to see him get his opportunity for the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see a Trojan great be given an opportunity, and we see some type of progression or difference from when he wasn't, and given to being able to take the lead, and when he was able to take the lead as a secondary guy, and we saw a difference in the secondary play. So I was, a lot of people I saw on Twitter is asking me about that, like if Taylor Mays had how big of an impact was it with Taylor, and I'm surprised that the tackling was like one of the specific things we saw improve so much, because Taylor, he wasn't like a fundamental tackler. Like he wasn't like a tackler. He was like a big guy that was really fast. Yeah, like so it was more of a just physics. He's big, he's fast, so once he makes contact, you're gonna go down. So that's not something you can like teach or replicate. You know what I mean? So kudos to him to being able to get the message across, like him being able to get guys to understand the proper way to wrap guys up and get them to the ground, because you definitely saw a dramatic improvement in that specific aspect of the defense as a whole, and the secondary specifically. Like the tackling was at a premium, like I said. So kudos to him he surprised me with that. Like I wasn't sure how he would be able to coach something that he really didn't learn. Like it's just something he was able to do, and he ran with it type deal. So it was huge shout out to Taylor. And I think having somebody with his pedigree at the collegiate level, especially at SC, the only 3-time All-American I believe in history of the school. So having someone with that pedigree, that name, kids know his name even to this day. They know who Taylor Mays was at SC. So I feel like that can be powerful in the recruiting. Like he's already making an impact in recruiting, and hopefully, he's able to keep striving to launch his coaching career, and hopefully, end up coaching at SC.
Yeah, it's hard because he's in that kind of range where he doesn't have enough experience right now coaching that you can just elevate him, but you also don't want to see him go because he's such a asset on the recruiting trail. So I think he's in a weird spot that way. So TBD on what happens with him, but of course all Trojan fans hope that he stays on the staff, so we'll see with that. But since we're talking about the defensive staff, I actually want to get your thoughts now, if you're up for it, Dion, on the new hires that USC made. First up, defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn came over from Westwood from UCLA. Overall, your thoughts on that hire? Were you surprised at all? I feel like the reporting sources, if you will, didn't really throw his name out too much when it came to USC, so I feel like a lot of people were surprised. I
was surprised because the dramatic improvement he had in year one with UCLA. So I'm surprised that that they let him go, or wherever the situation, however it transpired for him to become available for USC. I was surprised that his name was even in the ring, his name was even thrown out there. So, but he fit the bill, the type of DC candidate I felt that would be have the chance to be most successful at USC. I feel like we don't need a guy that's coming from a program that's just been stockpiled with talent, like coming from a Georgia or Alabama, because our roster, we don't look like that right now. Like we don't have those guys. So we need someone that's a motivator, a teacher, and a schematics guy that could, and not like, I have a scheme, we're going to run this scheme. I'm talking like a schematics guy, like a Bill Belichick. Like it's every game we're just scheming for the specific offense. So like 1 week we may run a lot of man, but next week we're running a lot of zone. Like we're not a man defense. We're like a multiple defense, so to speak. Like we really just adjust to the opponent so we can get the best plan, put our players in the best position to be successful versus the opponent we're seeing week in and week out. And I felt like we needed someone that was able to do that with not the most talent, proven and they can do that. So for him to go to UCLA when they were horrible defense before last year and take those same guys that they had on that horrible defense and take them to a top 20 defense, you know what I mean? Like, that's coaching. Like, if there's nothing you can tell me about his success that he didn't have a hand in it, you know what I mean? But you tell me someone if we got somebody that was on the Georgia staff, like, got promoted through the ranks, and now, we're taking, like, his thought process won't work at SC right now because we're not built like that. Like, we're trying to get back to that level, but we need someone that could really maximize the most out of whatever they're given. You don't need to be given the most to be able to maximize, like, your strengths as a DC. It needs to be reversed. Like, the DC needs to enhance the players, like, maximize the players and know how to do that schematically and motivational wise, and proofs in the pudding that he was able to do it at UCLA last year. So I was excited that we got somebody that fit the type of build I felt that would have the opportunity to be successful at SC in its current state. Yeah.
And it's funny because you kind of echoed what Coach Riley said in his presser when they announced Lynn as the DC. He was saying something that was a non-negotiable for him in the search was finding a DC whose scheme not only adapted week in and week out, because that's how where college football is going, but also a scheme that adapts to its players, not vice versa. And so from your mind as a defender, Dion, what does that mean and why is that important? Like, to have a scheme that adapts to its players?
Exactly, kind of like what I'm saying. Like, someone that is coming from Georgia and they try and take that Georgia scheme to run at Idaho. You know what I'm saying? Like, the player makeup is so dramatically different, but you're thinking that it's my scheme. My scheme is so great. Like, no, it's all about the players. Like, your scheme has to be tailored to the talent that you have to execute it. You can't be asking guys to do things that they can't do. So, like I said, it's about, maximizing the player, like finding a DC that's able to do that. And I'm glad that was a main point in Coach Riley's search, because to me, that's a huge deal. When you're not able to, when you're just not in that, how we were at Pete Carroll, we can go grab any recruit type deal. Yeah. And then you could really have a scheme and go out and fill that scheme, go get guys to run your scheme instead of adjusting your scheme to the guys you're able to put on the grass at that moment. So I believe him taking that lead in his search is going to put SC in a great position. They got a good defensive mind and someone who's proven to be able to take a bad product and make it a premium product. So I'm assuming that's the trajectory we'll be on with USC. So with Coach Lynn taking the charge, so it's an exciting situation for sure on the defensive end right now at SC.
You mentioned making the most of your talent, and the person that makes me think of besides Lynn is the next hire that USC made on December 10th, Matt Ince, who was the head coach at North Dakota State. He's the assistant head coach for defense and the linebackers coach. Talk about overqualified for the position. I was shocked when I heard this news.
Tell me about it.
What were your initial thoughts, Dion?
Slam dunk by Coach Riley. I'm more so understanding of how the business side works, so I understand how we were able to pull off something like this financially. So, but for them to be able to get somebody of the same build that I'm talking about, like, he got a teacher, someone that's able to maximize his guys. Like, these are the type of guys that we need at SC right now, and eventually we'll get to that situation where we just got plug and play talent, like just refilling and just throwing guys out there where we're not adjusting so much. People have to adjust to us type deal. But he got a guy that was dominant. I mean, this is the jump up type hire you want to see. Like, if you do get someone from the FCS ranks, like, you want the best, and we were able to get like the best. So we got and I felt like the second most important component to having somebody like Coach Lynn, who may be a great schematics guy, is you got to have great teachers, and to be able to do what he was able to do at North Dakota and continue on that legacy that was started before he got there, and winning 2 national championships. Like, he was able to maximize his guys, really teach what he wanted implemented, and get that, you know, across to his players where they could effectively, you know, whether it's his scheme or just his fundamentals of his program as a whole, where they could really take hold and understand it and follow his lead. And he did that at a premium level. So I'm excited that they were able to get somebody of his winning caliber, like, because it's different to truly know how to win and to come from like a winning team, you know, like, you can get thrown into a winning factory, but you don't know how to win. Like, to win at a school like North Dakota, you're recruiting the bottom of the bottom, in quotations, you know, of recruiting stock. And I mean, you're in the most unconventional conditions in North Dakota, and to be successful, like, he had tremendous success consistently. Like, never was a drop off. Yeah, they didn't win the national championship every year, but they were there, like, every year. Like, they had the opportunity, and they did the same thing. Like, they, you know, kind of like what I was saying on defense, you know, kind of like Seattle when they had the LOB and everything. You run cover 3, like, don't matter if they know you run in cover 3. If you really perfect it, everybody understands the foundation of the defense, understand how every level affects the other level. And I feel like that's what they really preach at North Dakota State. They do the same thing. They rarely change throughout their successful run over the past decade or so. And to have somebody to come from that type of winning stock, like, it's just truly, like, it was a slam dunk for Coach Riley and what he's trying to do, and get this defense turned and heading in the right direction. I think that hire 100%. Was, to me, more important than Coach Lynn, like, because you got a head coach caliber guy from a, you know, great winning, you know, hard working stock. And man, it was just truly a slam dunk, and one I'm sure the whole college world didn't expect.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing Twitter initially, and everyone was like, "Wait a minute, are we reading this right?" It was great, and I feel like it's been a while since we've seen kind of that the ripple effects go through a USC hire. It kind of was almost a little similar to the Lincoln Riley hire in itself, where no one was expecting it, and everyone was like, "Wait a minute, what?" So, and in a sense, it was also the counter to maybe some of the quote unquote criticism for the Lynn hire in his inexperience as a DC. You pair him with someone who has so much experience and has been in probably every scenario possible so far, then you kind of have this dynamic duo. Again, I'm so curious to see how this plays out, but it's pretty exciting. Looking forward to the future of USC's defense.
Correct. Me as well. This is definitely exciting.
Alrighty, Dion, I want to go into the full questions that we have, but any other thoughts before we jump into it?
Nope. Exciting times right now throughout the program. Great finish to the year. So excited to see how what product we're going to see in 2024.
Before we jump into questions, I just want to give a thanks to Audi. What if there was a portal to the future? Enter the fully electric Audi Q4 e-tron with an advanced touchscreen infotainment system. Audi, the future awaits. And take your health to the next level with Symbiotica. Their premium, easy-to-take supplements fuel your body with key vitamins and minerals to help you reach peak performance on and off the field. Elevate your health today by going to Symbiotica.com and use code FIGHTON for 15% off site-wide. So something that we have not talked about yet, Dion, and I was saving it for questions. The question comes from Elk. He said, with this performance by Miller Moss, can you still see Coach Riley adding possibly, as he said, 1 or 2 quarterbacks in this cycle through the portal? And if so, who would you pick? So some context here before you answer, Dion. One, Riley he was asked that. It was the 4th question in the post-game press conference, and he was like, I'm surprised it took this long for someone to ask, because someone was like, do you think Miller won the job with his performance? And Riley, of course, gave a very neutral, vague answer, as one would in that situation. And so he basically said, like, he did a great job. We'll see. He was like, he kind of joked, like, he probably scared off anyone in the portal anyway. And so it was funny because he was asked that with Miller sitting to his left, just kind of like giggling and like feeling a little awkward in that situation. But right now, I don't know what the future looks like. But from your perspective, Dion, is Miller Moss a starting quarterback at USC? Does he have the caliber? I feel like he showed that at least in the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, that was I had some conversations. I know a lot of coaches on staffs throughout the country, and we have our private conversations through the DMs and whatnot, because sometimes I get Twitter riled up from here and there, but they a lot of them were saying like they still thought that SC needed to get a quarterback, and I was just like, that's just so indicative of just where we are as a society right now. Like, the guy goes out, throws for record-breaking up, not just for himself. I'm talking bowl records, records guys that played 30, 40 games couldn't do. And he did it in his first opportunity, and we're already talking about getting somebody to replace him. Like, yeah, it's nonsense to me. And I'm not surprised at all on the ripple effect of how QBs in the portal may be responding to seeing his performance. Like, that wasn't, like I said, there were no backup performances like Miller Moss. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a lot of teams that Florida State specifically that would have killed to have someone like that in the dugout waiting in the wings.
100%.
So I'm sure Coach Riley gave a great response. He's the CEO of a team, and you can't just deem somebody the starter and then expect to get somebody to come in and compete when you already announced somebody the starter. So you got to leave that glimpse of hope to try and get somebody in so you can get some quality depth and competition at the position. So Miller Moss and whoever else they bring in could keep elevating and get better. And you never know, like, Miller Moss can, even if he was the guy, he can go down the first play of the game, first game next year against Michigan or LSU, actually. So yeah, it's you always need, unfortunately, so you need depth there. So it's a guarantee they're going to try and get somebody in the portal, or maybe, I don't know how high school recruiting is going on nowadays. It's 100 signing days. I mean, kids come in 1 minute, going somewhere the next minute. So I just don't really know if they can even still get a quarterback in the recruiting ranks right now in high school.
It's a wild west right now. It's insane.
It's I know I was in college 10 years ago, but I mean, man.
Doesn't it make you feel old?
They make me feel old, because like some of the stuff I be seeing kids doing, I'm just like, dang, like that was like taboo. Like, committing somewhere and going somewhere else was like taboo. Like, and
it kind of like looked bad on you too, right?
It looked bad. Like, it looked bad. Like, now we got kids throwing hats, picking up one hat, throwing it, putting on another. Like, I'm like, I came up in the ranks where, I don't know if you remember, but Landon Collins, he, his parents thought he was going to LSU, and he chose Bama, and his mom did not react well on national television for the Under Armour game. Like, I come from that. Like, you say you about to do something and you don't do it, like, there's going to be a ripple effect. Like, hold on, what do you mean? Like, you got to be a man of your word type deal. But I feel like it's just really the wild, wild west in recruiting right now. And I don't know how they're going to fulfill that, but I'm not surprised. The one quarterback I was hoping for, he declared for the NFL. So I felt like Cam Ward at Washington State, that was like the only true like difference maker to me of the quarterbacks in the portal ranks this year. Like, the crop wasn't as good as like Nix and Caleb and all that when they entered the portal before the 2022 season. So Coach Riley, he was dead serious. Like, it may have came off jokingly, but when he said Miller may have scared off people, he was dead serious. And he kind of, if you look at his face, it was bittersweet for him because it was like, you want him to play well, but he played so well. It's like, who would believe that, knowing his story, knowing how the fanfare is going to be there for him, and just truly believing that they're going to go in and win that job. Like, you had to beat someone like a Caleb to come into a situation like that and truly think you're going to win that job. They got to be special. And I don't think it was that type of guy wasn't out there, excluding Cam Ward this year, and he declared for the draft. So I was even more excited to see how Miller play, because I'm like, thank God we don't have to it don't really matter what happens with the portal because at least we have somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
It made you feel good about the future in that sense.
made you feel, and it felt even better because he was an SC guy. Like he's not a transfer guy. Like he's SC through and through, SoCal guy. Like it's just a great situation.
And to your point about the records, he had the most. No, he didn't have the most, but as far as most passing touchdowns in a bowl game in college football history, he's third on the list. If I'm reading this correctly, number one is Joe Burrow in 2019 with 7 in the Peach Bowl. Number 2, it tied for first, I guess, is in 2014. Cooper Rush had 7 in the Bahamas Bowl, and next up is Miller Moss in the Holiday Bowl with 6. So
And that's crazy. Like he's one game. Game. Like that was his only opportunity to start. Like so it's he left a lot for the imagination of the SC fan of what his career could potentially end up becoming. So it's a great situation. And this year's portal class, it was a perfect, with our younger quarterback transferring out and everything. Like it was just great for him to pan out and to put that type of performance out there, so it can kind of relax everybody and everybody more comfortable with just how the dominoes fall with the QB room this year. But to answer the question, I'm almost certain they're going to grab somebody this year. I'm not sure
you'd have to for depth.
Yeah, you have to, because we literally only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster right now, and one of them hasn't taken really. I don't know if Dennis has played at all. Like
Jake Jensen, I believe
Jensen. I mean, yeah. Jake Jensen. I don't think he's played at all. Which I
don't
mean,
think
Miller hadn't played much either. You saw what he did, so hey, we'll see how it works out. But yeah, they'll definitely grab somebody
for sure. Franklin had an interesting question. He said, "Was a great season with a bad ending, aka the Tulane loss, better or worse than a disappointing season with an improbable gritty win against Louisville?" And then he added, "This one feels better, kind of." So he added his 2 cents. So I was curious your thoughts on that comparison.
Yeah, I definitely think this year is much better because last year we didn't win anything. Like, yeah, we won 11 games, but we didn't win anything. Like, they're not going to take anything from that season besides Caleb winning the Heisman. This year, they capped the season off with a Holiday Bowl win. Like, they won something. They're the Holiday Bowl champs. Like, you feel good about how the way the season ended, and it puts the team on a good trajectory leading into the next year. Like, I felt like last year, it was the taste that left in your mouth. You just knew. You didn't know what to expect going into 2023 because of how 2022 ended. So it was like, it's a much more positive into a season and beginning to another. So I'm sure they're feeling a lot better coming back from winter break, heading into the spring season, spring workouts and whatnot. They're energized. They're excited. They're looking forward to 2024 in that building right now, and they're believing that they got something special brewing. Whereas coming into this year, they had a lot of questions they had to answer, a lot of personal questions, team questions, a lot of just uncertainty, and you saw how 2023 transpired. So I'm excited to see how 2024 works out with how they capped off the 2023 season with the win in the Holiday Bowl versus a respected opponent, which is major. Like, Louisville was ranked. They were a championship representative for the ACC. Like, it was a good win. It wasn't like we went out there and beat another 7-5 team. Like, Louisville we were underdogs. Like it was the situation was perfect. Like, to just cap off a season that just left so much left on the plate. It seemed like this year to head into a year that's really gonna have a lot of eyes on the program. Everybody's gonna be watching SC, Oregon, and Washington next year, and Michigan, Ohio State, to see how they respond to us coming over there type deal, because they've been dominating the Big Ten. So it's gonna be a lot of eyes on us, and it's exciting to see that the confidence may be brewing. With the young guys, they got to get out there before the big LSU showdown. And I feel like we may be up for the task, and we may, have a surprise for 2024.
We'll see. And it's funny you mentioned the winning something, and I it's my bad that I haven't mentioned this yet in the podcast. First time USC's won a bowl game since 2017, since the Rose Bowl.
Like, and that's That's crazy, which I know a lot of, you got the opt-outs, which wasn't a thing when I was in school. Like, guys played, we looked forward to the bowl game, especially us. We ain't going down that road, but the sanctions and all that. So, but like, when Leonard Fournette did that, I was already in the league. Like, it was a huge deal. Like, what, he's not playing in the bowl game? Like, he started all this nonsense, guys opting out and whatnot. But it's a crazy time with all the transition that goes on in the college ranks in the bowl season. So it was good to see it play out for us the way it did.
To your point, George he said, no question tonight, just a statement. Feeling great about this win in Miller Moss. 24 guys either opted out or hit the transfer portal. The guys who played earned a badge of honor, and I'm proud of them. I think we've shared that sentiment tonight. And then we had a question from G, who said, Dion, how do you convince a player to love defense as much as you do? You always exude passion.
Defense is all about want to. You gotta want to be out there and be good at defense, because like I always say, it's reactive. Like, you may have a hint at what the offense is trying to do, but you don't truly know what they're about to do. So it's all about reacting to what they do. More so as an offensive player, you can plan like, oh, okay, I'm running a slant, so if he lines up on me this way, I'm gonna run it like this. Or if he if they're running, if they're looking like this, you can plan your movements. And so defense is truly a mindset, and obviously it has the ability to mix in there. You got to have the ability to do it, certain positions and whatnot on defense. But it's much more of a mindset thing than playing offense, in my opinion, just because it's reactive and the physical nature of it. You got to want to tackle. Tackling doesn't feel good, So
yeah.
And as an offensive player, you can truly not be tackled if you really want to, unless you're a running back. Like, your receiver, I can go down every time. Like, I could not let you tackle me, like if I truly wanted to. But defense, I mean, you can't really avoid it. You got to get physical in order to excel on the defensive side. So it's all about the mindset. So I figure once they just get that mindset of, we want to be an elite, not want to be an elite defense. Let me reframe that, because every defense wants to be an elite defense, but now the pressure's on a little more, minus Caleb Williams, of the need to be an elite defense, be a better defense. So I figure like all of these things are going to add up to what we're going to see of the drastic improvement in 2024. Like, we need a better defense in order to be a successful team, more so this going into 2024 than we have the past 2 years, because we don't have someone that magical eraser like Caleb who could, cover up, us giving up 30 points, spot us 49 points, 50 points type deal. So I feel like that aspect is going to uptick the production on defensive side. It's going to be emphasized more, even from Coach Riley, who's the offensive guy, because it's just a necessity now more so than it has been. So
and I know we already talked about this on Twitter, but you mentioned the want to, and DC D'Anton Lynn was asked what he looks for in players that he recruits, and he said a want to, and a want to tackle. And to me it was like he clipped our podcast of something you've said before, Dion, and just like played it, because you guys are so on the same page with that. So I was like, this is probably a good sign in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so funny because I checked in with my guy Silas Red, because he played with Coach Lynn at Penn State, right?
I didn't
Coach
even
Lynn's
make that
a young
connection.
guy. He's a very young guy. So I was like, when you told me about that he said that, I asked Si, I said, how was he? He was like, oh, he was physical. Like, he was physical. I was like, oh, he perfect for our team then, because one, he played at a major program, so he can put himself in their shoes. And he played corner, so like it was just great. He was physical at that position as well, which you got to be in the Big Ten. So like I felt like he was just a slam dunk hire. Like he turned around the defense, and he's comes from Big Ten stock, so it was just like a win-win. Like, he can give you that inside look of being in a Big Ten atmosphere and the preparation of how to attack a Big Ten offense, because it's going to be drastically different from what we've been preparing to stop, which also will play into our defensive rankings improving. I want everyone to understand that we're going to a league that's not nearly, it's not even close. Like, the offensive production in the Pac-12 compared to offensive production in the Big Ten. Like, the only team that looks like us in the Big Ten is Ohio State. You know, like Michigan doesn't look like us because they're like Coach Harbaugh's Stanford type team, you know, which is exactly what he did at Stanford. That's what he's doing at Michigan. Like, run the ball, big alignment type deal. And so it's going to be exciting to see what it looks like in 2024, because I feel like they're going to see a lot that they have not seen. Like, and if you see the record of the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten, it's heavily in our favor.
Yep.
Like,
and
so
also thanks to USC, not just like the Pac-12.
Yeah.
So I mean,
our record versus the Big Ten, I mean, it's nuts. But like that, so a lot of people, the interior things and that. I'm like, yeah, you can recruit that, but this the philosophy, that West Coast philosophy and style of running offense, like I feel like the Big Ten is going to be hit like with a whirlwind with the offensive production that SC, Oregon, and Washington is going to bring. And the Big Ten you've seen of old, I feel like in 5 years it's going to look like the Pac-12 with the Big Ten logo, because that's going to be like everyone's going to have to score. I feel like Iowa won't be able to beat a SC or Oregon and Washington, because we're not going to be held to 10 points, 13. Like, that's impossible. And it's just a fact. Like, you're not going to hold these offenses to 10, 13. Like, so like that defensive production on their end is going to slide as well, because they're going to play against more high flying offenses, which you all see how their production looks versus Ohio State. Like, that's where they give up the most points. They look the most pedestrian when they play against a more spread out look, letting guys get in space and run. So I feel like we're in a great position heading into 2024. Like, it's truly all about our defense. Like, how will we be able to tackle? Because we're not going to be playing against like a spread wide open look. It's going to be more of, hone down, run the ball, tackle, gritty, get off on type wins we're gonna have to produce. So it's exciting.
You got me so excited for 2024 and just like the future of the Big Ten. And now I'm like, it kind of sucks that it's the end of the season, because you're getting me all hyped for this.
Oh man, it's gonna be a great year for the Big Ten next year. A lot of change, a lot of positive change to a league that gets a lot of respect, but truly is a 2-man league. Like, Penn State, they're a good regular season team, but they don't really beat anybody in the postseason. Like, they truly, if you look up Coach Franklin's record for the postseason, it's not really that good. So they're good. And if you look up his record versus Michigan and Ohio State, I mean, that tells itself. So they beat everybody else in the Big Ten, but they don't beat the two big dogs. So like, it's going to be, it's exciting to get more competition in that league, and a lot of the West Coast bias, I feel like, is going to get eliminated, and like a lot of flack really that Pac-12 teams have received in the past. Like, people are going to realize, like, we were wrong. Like, that Oregon team or that SC team, that we won the Rose Bowl with, like those type of teams, like they actually could have competed with the top teams. We just thought that they couldn't, but like, it's not that.
You're seeing it now after the semifinals. I feel like half the country was like, Michael Penix, look at him. It's like, yes,
yeah, which
hello.
I'm surprised, because Washington's undefeated. So, like, normally
it's a Christian McCaffrey type of scenario,
Yeah, it's but even more so worse, because like Washington's undefeated. So like, I mean, they were one of 3 or 4 teams the whole month of November that was undefeated. So I feel like everyone should have been paying attention to them. But I feel like people just don't believe, don't believe in a program that
the brand power won.
It plays a factor, and I'm not surprised, because the SEC, they have won, like, I mean, like, it's been since 2014 they started the playoff. I mean, they probably haven't won like 2 of them.
I mean, for a long time it was the Georgia Alabama Bowl, it felt like.
Yeah, not really. They just kept playing each other, it seemed like. So it's I feel like people they didn't want to say like, oh, Washington's going to beat Texas, or Washington truly is a top team, because like Washington, like I said, they was undefeated all year. Like, they never lost a game, and they didn't make it to the top 4 until like the end, like till they won the
Yeah.
pack. Then they got in there,
Yeah.
like they really didn't want to put them in there, and then they beat Texas. Like, and I personally think they're gonna beat Michigan because, like I said,
I was about to ask
Michigan has not stayed. They got lucky in the past couple of years because Ohio State, they weren't good defensively until this year. So even when they had Stroud and they had the offensive power, their defense wasn't good. And this year they didn't have no offensive power. So like they didn't get that look of playing against an explosive team. So I feel, and Alabama obviously is no Washington. Like, so I feel like everybody is putting all their eggs in the Michigan basket. I'm telling you, people are going to get a look into what big Pac-12 defenses have to face every week. Because it's like there's a lot of like teams that look like Washington in the pack. Like, just Washington does it every week, and other teams may look like that, one week, not like that the next week. Like, Washington's be able to consistently put up that offensive production. And I feel like it's going to be an onslaught, like, of just a ball in the air, people catching the ball, running. Like, it's going to be great to see, man. I'm excited. So
I love salty Dion. So in that sense, I can put you down as UW winning the national championship.
Yeah. I got UW for sure because I mean no one's been able to stop them. Like they come to the game, they're gonna throw it 50 times and they're gonna get a win. So I'm assuming they're gonna be able to do the same against Michigan.
I know the transitive property doesn't really work in college football, but like, do you ever think about like, okay, USC is like a third down stop away from beating UW? Like, how do you make sense of those things?
And that's what I was saying to one of my friends who's a coach. I was just like, because he told me like UW's the best team in the country, and I was like, that's funny you say that because like they weren't better than SC.
Yeah,
like we literally should have beat them. Like, we have a misfortunate fumble, like just unfortunate mishaps time wise. They were still right there, and it's crazy. This team is now 14-0, about to play for a national championship, and like they did not look like on another level than us. So it really just makes you that taste in your mouth. Even you look at like a Oregon who's looked dominant. Like, yeah, they didn't look that much better than us, and we feel like we're so much further off of our mark of where we normally are as a SC program when it comes to just the players that we have, the type of players, the way they look, the way they can move.
And just the expectation
and all that. And even without that, we were still right there, like with teams that are legitimately good. Like, not like, oh, you're good West Coast teams. Like, no, these are teams that
you're in the national championship.
You know what I mean? Like, they're in the conversation. So it was like, we truly are right there. It's encouraging, but it's, bittersweet, as we've been saying a lot this episode. It's bittersweet to see UW, make this run, because it's like, dang, we were on a level playing field with them. Like, dang, we literally we had enough to do it. We just couldn't connect the dots when we needed to connect them, type deal. So it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, is that just college football and like you win and you lose, or are the margins for USC not being there smaller than we think? It's one of those things that I guess like only time will tell, but it's definitely something that I think about seeing, UW take care of Texas. Like, okay, I remember seeing those plays at the end of the fourth quarter. Like, how do you compare all this? So it's
look at you watched how like Texas looked against UW. Like, UW looked like a much better team than Texas.
Yeah.
Like, they were in control of the game. I never really thought Texas was going to win, but like,
I mean,
you see them.
UW tried their best towards the end of the game.
Oh yeah, like towards the end,
stressful.
I'm like, UW's going to try and give this game away. Like, what's going on here? Like, because that's how that difference of being in that situation, like
when
they
you've
got
been
to
there
that
before
point.
versus
You've
not.
been there before, and you're not playing to lose. You're playing to win. Like, they started playing not to lose. Like, oh snap! Like we a quarter away. Like, we about to go to national championship. Like, what is going on? Like, whereas teams that are used to being there, they really put the foot on the neck and really just close the game out.
Yeah, seal it off.
So it's bittersweet, definitely, to see a conference opponent that really was us. They literally were what we were. They just had a slightly better defense, and that was able to edge them to a perfect season. That margin, that much. Because if you look at all our wins, like all our losses, nobody whooped us. Like, we didn't go on the field, and excluding Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the only game like
the outlier.
It just looked bad. Notre Dame looked bad, but everybody else, like, it was like one play that was the difference. Literally,
it was close, yeah.
Like, it was close. Like, one play, Utah beat us by a field goal. Unforced errors versus Oregon, and Autzen, which played them tough on the road. I mean, I'm not gonna go through every single loss, but I mean, we were right there, and it's just that margin of the season ending the way you wanted to, and it being a very disappointing season. It's so small when you're at that level, like. And I feel like this was truly the year that we were supposed to see the progression, or like that 11-2 year that we got, 11-3 year we got year one. I would have anticipated that being year three, like getting a couple recruiting classes in, churning over the roster, instilling your morals or values for the program and whatnot. And I feel like that year one success, it kind of threw everything out of whack because Caleb was so special. And then we had Jordan and whatnot and Dye, and the defense was really the telling of where like our program really was, but our offense masked it. You know?
I mean, Coach Riley basically said as much kind of in the last couple of press conferences that he's had. It's interesting. I mean, like, in some ways he's suggested that like the success of the first year kind of hurt in some ways because it made it seem like the program was farther along than it actually is.
Than they were. And that's what could happen when you have someone that's a special talent like Caleb. Like, he could make things. He can just put you in a realm that everyone surrounding him may not be able to survive in. So it put us in a realm of expectation that only Caleb could live up to, for me to explain it better. Like, so like we were where we thought Caleb, should be, but he was in like kind of like a class of his own on the team. He pushed the
ceiling higher.
He was a few steps ahead of everybody else, you know? So it, it kind of throws it all out of whack, but the Miller Moss performance, it definitely quiets that a little bit. Like, okay, maybe it wasn't all Caleb, okay, maybe we're just further along offensively and we need the defense to catch up, which is encouraging when you're thinking it may just be all one player, like a Louisville situation. Like, it truly was all Lamar Jackson, like it had nothing to do with the scheme. Like, he left and they were terrible when he left, so that you never know those type of situations because, talents like a Caleb Williams or a Lamar Jackson, they don't, come through every year. So you don't know how that transition from them moving on what it's going to look like. So it was exciting to see the offense still be able to produce and look explosive and have a cohesiveness to it. It looked like a Lincoln Riley run offense. And that was really calming as a fan, because you're like, man, what is it going to look like without Caleb? Because, he really was special. So.
Alrighty, I have one last question for you, Dion. It's actually for the both of us. It's from Bush Push 55, who said, now that it's officially over for the Pac-12 and USC football, for both of you, what is the best and worst Pac-12 moments in your tenure? So I'm curious if you have any thoughts there, Dion. I guess for best, the Rose Bowl comes to mind. That was very fun for me to cover. I was a senior in college at the time, so that was fun.
That's a good memory.
Maybe, but that's not really Pac-12, if you will. It's Pac-12 Big Ten. So maybe the Stanford upset. I believe you and Cody both played in that game. So that was a real fun one as a student, I will say.
Yeah, that was a good one too. I would say probably our win in Oregon in 2011. That was probably. That was a great Pac-12 moment for me personally. And the worst, I would say, is probably when we were in the tarmac game, like when we went to Tempe. that was probably like the worst moment. Like that was the first
That's
time
fair.
I had really been in a situation where like turmoil. Like we didn't know what was gonna happen. We like, man, because we were the recruiting class that chose SC when we got hit with the sanctions. Like they got hit with the sanctions like a month or two, if I remember correctly, before our signing day.
Oh, wow.
So like we had the opportunity to go somewhere else, even if we had signed, because kids can go early.
Okay.
At that time. So even like Dylan Baxter, Kyle Prater, they had already enrolled at SC, but they was going to let them out of their NIL. Like we could have went somewhere else.
Okay. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. We which it wasn't possible back in that day, but when there was a coaching change, that was the only time like you were able to transfer, and we would have been immediately eligible. Like we could have got our NLIs and signed somewhere else and played, but we stuck it out and whatnot. So to have it all end like that with Lane getting fired on the plane and all that nonsense, that was like probably the worst moment of my Pac-12 time, even though it ended well that year. But that moment in general,
there's no explanation really needed. I think everyone understands.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody remembers that day, I'm sure.
Yeah. I can't even, I don't even know if I can think of a worst. I don't know if I want to.
Right. That's a good question.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I did have one come to mind. Probably the 2020 Pac-12 championship that was hosted at the Coliseum, but Oregon won. So it was Oregon celebrating the Pac-12 championship on the Coliseum field. That was a very unique scenario.
SC played in them, right?
Yeah, it was SC versus Oregon. Pac-12 championship at USC. 2020, it's COVID, just all around
it was just a weird year. I was like, even if we win this year, like
it was a half season,
like
a
half season for us, but like Bama, they played like 12 games that year.
Yeah. I think that so one weird. Wins the worst moment in my mind because there's a lot of variables there.
That's a good one. Like that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm proud of that one.
That was a good one for sure.
Alrighty, Dion. It is the end of the 2023 season, which is crazy to say. Glad we were finally able to podcast. Always value your contributions to the show. I know it's not easy. You had another kid this season and still podcasted all the way through it. It's just incredible. We value you so much. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode and basically the 2023 season?
Year two, it wasn't as exciting as year one, but still on capped off the year with a great win in the Holiday Bowl, and I mean, year three is gonna be the most exciting year of them all. Move to the Big Ten, opening up in Vegas against LSU. It's exciting times, around the SC community right now. So everybody, hey, be positive, and I expect to see. A lot of enthusiasm and a great product hit the field come 2024.
Alrighty, you heard the man. He's been previewing it all episode long. Excited for the 2024 podcast. Alrighty, Dion, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for everyone listening all season long. Thank you for your patience when we had to reschedule and all that good stuff. We'll be on a good schedule going forward. But thank you all for listening. Thank you, Dion. That's going to wrap it up. That's Dion. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.